So,
what's up? What's up? How you doing out there?
Hey, all right.
We got 3 spots, but before we enter the room into this elephant room, I just want to say a mad shout out to Kinte and the Indie Radio platform for giving us this opportunity. To the ongoing Elephant Room podcast producer, Mr. Dr. Vibe, thank you for coming into the room. The students from the University of Toronto Transitional Year Program, who are people who I love very much. Welcome to the room, my friends, family. Mm-hmm. My name is L.A. Wade. I am so happy to be here to introduce you to this conversation. I see all of you people out there logging in to see what we have to say, to hear what we have to say. Mm-hmm. This is my boy. I'll let him introduce himself, because he's one of those people that have like a mad long list of aliases.
That's one of the things that a black man you gotta have.
Who aliases. Are you today?
Well,
who are you today?
All right, so I'll give y'all like my whole name. I am Mike Truth the Nomad, aka Boogie McCabe. But today y'all can call me Boogie. So yeah, she can call me Boogie today. Today I'm Boogie.
Boogie. Yes. All right, Boogie. We got you, Boogie. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yes, right?
Already the divide has begun. We can see the differences already. So what is the topic for today? What is the topic? What is going on in the gender divide?
I don't know. I think you sound kind of angry in your tone there.
Oh, is that it?
You look pretty angry with that smile that you got on.
I'm an angry black
woman. Are you angry?
Yes.
I think you're angry right now, Elaine.
I'm so angry right now. I'm the angriest smiling woman in the world. Can we start with that? Okay, let's talk about it. Are we black women, the black women on this platform, are we angry? What do you think? I know there's reasons for us to be angry. I know that.
Well, to be honest with you, I think that that's probably the reason why a lot of black men, like they use that as a scapegoat, as an excuse not to be with a black woman. And like, I don't know if like you guys are aware, but there's this huge gender divide that we are living through right now. And I don't know if people are in awareness or are conscious of what's going on in our communities. When you look at things, there seems to be this systematic push for separation within our communities. So within our relationships and the way our families are structured.
Okay, but I think that what the best thing to do right now is to introduce some people into those 3 spots that are currently available. Who's got next? Sandra says she's aware of the foolishness.
Yes.
There's a lot of foolishness. What we want to do to start is once we open up the spots, we want to touch on some of the things that have been coming up in the media that are kind of perpetuating this growing tension that's happening between black men and black women. Mm-hmm. Specifically, do I dare say it? R. Kelly. Oh my God. Never mind what R. Kelly did or allegedly did and didn't do, whatever it is. It has caused some serious tensions in our community between the black woman and the black man. And I want to talk about it. I really want to talk about it. Dr. Vibe, are you ready to come into this room? Grab a spot, Dr. Vibe. Which ladies would like to come and represent on Team Black Woman?
Yo, and we actually need men. See, like, and this is one of the biggest elephants too. Like, whenever we get platforms, I think we're very shy. We don't take the opportunity, you know. So we need people to actually step up. And it's okay though. I mean, like, we're not trying to put you on the spot, but it will be ideal.
This is how we're all going to learn, right? Is by doing that. So at any time, Kinte, if somebody's willing to step into the room, Dr. Vibe said he'll be in about 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Ryan, I don't know if you're interested in taking a spot and having an addition to this conversation, but I'm going to put out some. What's up?
No, you know what? Let's start the convo, and if they like it, they'll hop in. I think they're shy.
We have love and hate for one another. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna see that throughout time. I'm gonna want to choke him out most of the time, but there's love, and that's what we need to do. Oh, Ryan wants to come in. He'll be on. So Kinte, I don't know how you do that.
I think they just grab the spot. So
okay, Ryan, go ahead. Yeah. Grab your spot. Grab a spot.
Because I think that if we just kind of get into it, like, what is really causing this gender divide? Like, that's like the main question. Because like, when you remember that thing I sent you on Instagram?
Yeah, the meme. Hey Ryan, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing, Ryan?
How about yourself?
We're great.
Good,
We're
good,
great.
good,
Thank
good,
you.
good.
Welcome to the conversation.
Yeah.
So Mike is now just talking to me about the fact that around the time of the R. Kelly thing, he sent me this meme, and I think the meme was talking about how Black women have been waiting forever for Black men to show up for them. It's kind of like the idea of the meme,
I think
right?
it says something like the cost of waiting on a Black man to grow it could be the very life of a Black woman. And that itself, it struck me so hard in like so many different ways because
he was all up in his feelings about it.
No,
he was fully in his feelings about it.
All right, cool.
Who's this? Is this Sandra? Hi, Sandra.
Hey, Sandra.
Welcome. How you doing?
Welcome, Sandra. Nice to have you.
Now, you know, like I wouldn't necessarily say that I was all up in my feelings. Maybe I was. But I think that just a statement like that, it kind of perpetuates what is going on in society today. Whereas it seems like we are hurting Black women, and at the same time, verbally as well, like we are taking this abuse in turn. Because I'm a Black man, and like I love Black women. Like I'm very like much aware of myself and who I love. And whenever I have been in relationships, it's actually very often that I find myself getting, like, I guess, the wrong end of the stick when it comes to like my relationship with a lot of Black women. So for me, in turn, to see posts about Black men ain't shit, and basically something like I just said, the very cost of waiting on a Black man to mature could be the life of a Black woman. That strikes me so hard because it's like, wait, hello, do I not exist?
Yeah, but hello, there's reasons. I mean, not that I'm in full agreement with what that is, but there are reasons why that meme can, one, strike you so deeply, and two, that it would be constructed in the first place. And that's because there's things that we know that are happening within the Black man's experience that we're not talking about. So what is making it so hard for the Black man to show up for Black women?
Well, for one, we could look at the system, like this white supremacist patriarchal system that we live in. Because if you look at the intent of colonialism, it was to basically strip us of exactly everything that we are. So our identity, families, and everything. So if you take a look back at 400 years ago, when the first enslaved people got on this continent, some of the methods that they basically did, that was used, was already like the separation of families. So breaking down basically like the individual and the separation of families. And last time, like I think we were talking about it, where I said that patterns and sequences. So sequences leads to patterns. So a sequence of events leads to basically like patterns which we replicate. And so the sequence of us men way back in those times being forced, like taken away from families and used for breeding purposes, it basically inserted a certain mindset.
So you're saying that
it's deeply rooted.
This is why men can't show up for Black women today.
It's part of it, yes. Like that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's deeply rooted. It's not just something that's
most definitely it's deeply rooted.
Can you define showing up for Black women? What do you mean by that?
Well, what were you defending when you were saying that?
So what I hear, the rhetoric that I hear when people say that Black men don't show up for black women is, okay, first of all, in cases of like arguments, like Black women usually are left to fend for themselves. And when it comes to like our homes, the narrative is saying that basically and also like in a lot of cases as well. See, I don't want to basically undermine anybody's experience. The narrative basically says that black men are not dependable partners, and like there are a lot of single Black moms out there. So I think that
can we talk about that?
No, so I think that could basically kind of play into what you're talking about when you say.
Sure. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that the idea that Black masculinity needs to be presented in a particular way, it has to be walked out looking like a certain way. There's respectability politics around how to show up as a Black man, as a man, period. And then you complicate that with the intersectionality of race and class. When a man has to show up and pay for certain things, the expectation is that he has to pay for certain things. He has to protect. He has to provide. Is if he's not showing up in that way, I think that's more so what I would be thinking about if we were waiting for a black, like here I am, I'm divorced.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to, push through with 2 kids, 17 and 6. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm not getting child support. I'm not getting any of those things. Mm-hmm. I have to kind of fend for myself and do it. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of women in way worse situations than I am. So where are those men? But then to my sisters, when you're preventing the fathers from being with their children, that also is like another way that you're degrading him worse than even the system is degrading
but
him.
Like, what is causing that mindset? Like, what, I think the big question becomes, what causes that? What can basically cause sisters? I mean, it seems very like apparent, but I still want to bring that up. Like,
no, we have to talk about it.
What causes basically like a sister to keep like a child away from the father? Like,
me personally, I don't get that, but Ryan wanted to chime in. And
I was gonna say, because you were brother, I don't know your name here.
Boogie.
Sorry, say that one more time.
Boogie.
Yes, Boogie. How could I forget? I saw you in the chat. We also have to remember. I remember when I was young reading the William Lynch Manifesto, and it was a plan of action to pretty much break Black people like you would break a horse or you would break an animal. And in order for you to break an animal, like, for example, I got a little puppy sitting right beside me here. And in order for her to for her to assume that I'm the alpha, I have to remove her from her home, from her family, from her culture. And, and just like how we were removed, you're talking about removing the Black man from the home, how we were stripped and, strapped up on a horse, burning or whatever they would do to us. They would embarrass us in front of everyone. And the woman was left to take care of the household and take care of her children. And, and she would teach the women to be mentally strong, and she would teach the men to be mentally weak, so that they don't raise up against the master, so that they don't cause any conflict. And I can, being Trinidadian and I was raised with women in my life, my whole life. And my grandma is the strongest woman that I know. My mom is the strongest woman that I know. My sisters are strong women that don't need any man. But trust me, being the middle child and the only man in the house, I got a mental licking every single day, being taught that I wasn't
mental licking.
Mental licking, that I couldn't do anything. And I had to break out of that home and that environment in order for me to find my manhood, in order for me to feel good as a man. Because the only things and we would watch Waiting to Excel when I was young. My mom would have me watch all these different videos and movies. And I'm just having this perception of myself as a man, like, whoa, men are just dogs and all they do is hurt women. And I see my mom in our relationships, and she would be hurt, but she was always the one saying that I can take care of myself. So when men see that a woman can take care of herself, why do we want to come and protect? Why do we want to be there? And I'm not saying that for myself, because I have a different background, but I'm just saying, like, if you're independent, you're strong, what do you need me for?
Oh, for love, man.
True.
Sandra,
but that's not
him, Sandra.
Well, I don't know. I'm listening, and I think there's so many different topics within the conversation.
Yeah, let's pick
apart. There's so many different things that you're talking about. What I'm trying to pick out is something. I guess there's something about the role of men and women, and what our expectations may be of that role. And I get what Ryan's saying about when someone transfers their ideas about what they think is going on in terms of the relationships. And I hear this whole thing about women and independence and all the rest of it. I think there's no doubt, because of the way that we have evolved as a race, that there is a separation in the sense, I don't know if it's a separation. I hate the word separation. That's why I said foolishness earlier, because I don't think that there necessarily is a separation. I think what there is a difference between our views of what we think our roles should be and how we survive a lot of what we have experienced in terms of the separation that has been fostered on us. I think it isn't all about what we necessarily think it's about. Something has been in the program that there has been for how we look at each other and how we view each other and how we treat each other and how we respect each other and how we even love each other, if it's possible to do that at the end of the day after all of this stuff that we have been through. And so I get the experience in the walk that we've been on. I think now the challenge is, given that we're all so wise to where we have been, to how do we carve out a future that works, where we can have relationships, we can, we can get married if married is what we want to do. How can we have stable, sustainable relationships? Because I think we can all talk about what goes on in terms of how we are separated and how we are viewed and how we view each other. And somebody just sent me this morning a video of some guy ranting about women. You need to know your place. You got to know your place. And if you know your place, then I can be the man, and you got to know this. And I'm thinking, what bullshit is that? Like, any guy that has to telling you about what he needs to be as a man, go away, take a seat, get on with your life. It's too dramatic.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
we all know.
I think about,
I'm just saying, listen.
Sorry, I just think about being.
Go on.
If I can't be independent and strong because it makes you feel weak, I don't really get that. I want you to be as strong or stronger than me, so that we can build together. I just want to welcome Dre into the conversation. Welcome, Dre.
Hey, Dre.
I think you wanted to come in because when you referenced me, you referenced to me that love isn't enough.
So there was a couple of things that came to my mind. There's a popular saying, where there is no vision, people cast off restraint.
That's right.
I think people go into relationships, particularly, people in a Black community, and they have no clue what a relationship looks like. So because they can't see it, they both cast off restraint. So I don't know what it looked like to be a good husband to a Black woman. Black women don't know
what it looks like.
No, I'm just saying this is what cast off restraint. So if I'm a young Black man who have never seen at all a good example of what a positive, strong Black relationship is, I don't have a vision, or I don't have a source of reference. So I'm going in blind, and because I don't have a vision of it, I'm going to go into it, and the person that I'm falling in love with may cast off restraint, and vice versa. So I think we don't have, well, for the most part, we don't have a strong image of what it means to have successful Black relationships. And that's, and that's having to unpack. I think that goes back to us not knowing what it means to have a strong Black community. A lot of times, whether it's in the media or even if we live in urban communities where we may live in hostile communities, we don't have that vision, so we don't have a source of reference, and some of us don't want to have to do it the way other cultures have done it. And in Western civilization, how Africans were brought up, community-minded, tribal, where communities came together and they worked together for communities and tribes to achieve. They stripped the system, the Western civilization in general, not just in America, but wherever the stamp of Western civilization is that started from Europe, it took away that sense of community, specifically for Black slaves. And we never really got that back. We never really stopped and said, what can we do to get that back, or back to that place where the Black man and the Black woman are working together to build up communities. And another thing with Western civilization is everything is so independent.
Right.
Where
that's a huge problem.
We're all operating on our own.
And that's the problem. Like, for instance, here's a great example. I remember they say that children grow up a little bit more secure. This is tests done through research. Children growing up in 3-generational homes grow up to be more successful educationally, in life, more secure. But when we go off to college, we wind up either staying in the cities that we went to college in. We don't come back home to try to build up our own communities, our home that leaves single mothers to fend for themselves, or a married couple who is just out of college may have a child. Their mother may live in New York and their mother's living in Florida. They have to fend for themselves. I just think that we have a Western civilization led us to a place today where independence is more valued than community. And I think that we have to try to, once we unpack everything, it's probably going to go back to how we have a broken sense of what community really is.
Well, yeah, because we're trying to gain a sense of community, yet we're being influenced to be independent. Exactly. And so Kinte was asking, the producer was asking, what do I mean by independent and strong? But it's exactly that. I have to survive. So it's a survival thing. And would I rather survive with my man with me? Of course, it would be easier. So there's something else going on underneath that. It can't just be my independence and my strength that makes a man want to run away. So what are the things that Black men are feeling that they're not allowed to say? I can't hear what you don't say. And I think that there's something going on within the psyche of a Black male that when juxtaposed with the ideas of Black masculinity and respectability politics, he's not allowed to share how he feels. And therefore the understanding is never able to be flourished and seen.
I definitely agree with that. So I definitely think that we've been placed to kind of compete against the white male in a system that has been created to benefit them. So already we are starting at a disadvantage, and I think for a lot of brothers, and I don't want to preach for everybody, but for a lot of brothers, what tends to happen is that when you are placed in a position like in your places of employment, even if when you've gotten all your accolades, your degrees or whatnot, and you're still capped and you're not able to reach a certain level of success, like as a human being, there is an energy that comes with that. Like you feel less than. So it's a power thing, and I think a lot of brothers, basically, so both of us, brothers and sisters, but a lot of brothers, then the only place that we're able to take out that frustration, the way it manifests, tends to be in our homes. And so they're either consciously or like unconscious. When we get home and we are basically we're drained out of our energies, we're not able to provide the ideal of what a white man could do for his white woman, to provide the space. And on top of that too, there is the shaming aspect of it that we may feel. Yes, it really traps.
That's a huge aspect.
It traps basically like a person's mindset, and so it perpetuates this this constant. Okay, so at work I'm not enough. I need to feel powerful. If I come home, I'm going to exercise this power. But then again, the way it manifests, it ends up like most of the time it ends up breaking the family.
I mean, when we were talking to each other,
I like that story because I think that's true. That does happen. I think something today I learned from listening to Ryan's show was, and this is interesting, just listening to your show, Ryan, you were talking about how people become successful on social media and how you've watched the trends of what people do and who they follow and how they become successful from following the right people who are connected to other people. Now, that's just an example, social media, right? And I just wonder, sometimes we have so much history out there. We have so much experiences of what has happened, not just to this generation, but the generations before, and how we've been separated as generations coming forward since slavery. And I wonder, why are we not learning from the past? Why are we not looking at what's happened to our parents, to the people before, to our fathers, to in our families? Why are we not learning from these experiences? Because I think the trends are there. I think the answers are right in front of us. I think now, I kind of get to a point where I go like, it's excuses now. It has almost become excuses in the sense that I understand where we've been. I understand the journey we've been on. And I think a lot of us are conscious of that journey. What I think is missing is the being intentional in order to change the future. We're not like intentional about our relationships. We're not intentional about even planning for our families, those of us who have teenagers and those who are coming up. And what do we want them to do? What relationships do we want them to have? If we're not able to even get it right, how do they stand a chance of getting it right? And it's that not just looking at ourselves, but looking at who we're bringing through. How are those people going to manage if we don't get it right? So it's okay showing your son waiting to excel and exhale and all the bullshit stories out there about failed relationships. But can you show a successful one? Can you point to something that worked and say, look, that worked? That's what you need to emulate. That's what you need to aim for. That's what we need more.
For sure. Rayanne, who's watching online, has said the elders aren't teaching well, and she's speaking personally. And I always say this: is like, I know that what's wrong. I just don't know how to change it. And no one's sharing that information. We're talking so much about our problems.
We talk around like the actual issue.
We're ignoring those elephants. They're standing right there.
But are younger people willing to listen?
Well, I don't think that they're willing to listen because they don't respect what we have laid as a platform for them. So they're trying to do what they see their white kids doing. They're trying to do it themselves. And wow, we know how that's going. Ryan, I saw you say something.
I was going to say that we have to understand that when did Jim Crow end? That was maybe 50 years ago.
It's still ongoing now.
It's still ongoing, but we are a new people. We are brand new people, and we live in Western civilization where we can be whatever what we put our mind to. So that being said, we don't have a culture. As much as we talk about our elders teaching, we have a new principle. We have new principles. We have new knowledge, even greater than some of the ancient African tribes and traditions. We are disconnected from a lot of our culture. And so we should cut ourselves a little bit of slack because we're in an environment where we actually have to go to the man. Even look at our syntax. Look at the language that when we're even speaking, we say, please, thank you. In certain cultures, they don't even use that in their lexicon because it's just a part of the culture to give. Whereas we have to get on our knees and ask for our food. We don't plant. We don't even have. My grandma talks about having mango trees in her yard where she lives. We are constantly having to work to just provide for our families. I was looking at the North Centennial Island, and it's an island off of the coast of India with people that have descended from their direct descendants of the original people and have been on that island for 60,000 years. And people can't even get to the island because they have bow and arrows and rocks, and no one can even get and infiltrate that culture. And the thing is that we're going to have to find a way to develop a culture so that we know what our place is as men and women.
We're all like dying to say something.
I don't know who's going first. But.
Like you're preaching right now. You're preaching. But Sandra is look like she's going to explode.
No, my mom just came in and started talking, and I'm thinking,
Dre,
oh God.
I wanted to say something, but just before you say something, Dre, I just want to speak to that, Ryan, and say that it's the mythology. Our mythology that we have taken with a badge of honor is slavery. And if we think about us as enslaved people and we don't have anything else as our mythology, this is why we continue to be stuck in that loop. Other cultures don't have those kind of mythologies. If you think about the Chinese, there's excellence, that their standard, their mythology is excellence, that they are the innovators, that they are the disciplinary race, right? This is what, and so therefore they walk out that mythology. Black people being separated and being so spread out within the diaspora and separated from the continent. And not only that, the continent is also colonized. And so they are trying to be separated within the continent. We need to create a new mythology. And I would venture to say that here in the Western side of the world, that hip hop, when it was first coming out, was going to be that mythology.
Yes.
What the hell did we do to our mythology?
You know what's funny
Yeah.
though?
Dre, go.
Yeah,
Go,
go ahead,
Dre.
Dre.
I was going to say that. The thing is, there's been times, if we look at back in history, there's been times when we've tried to introduce a new culture or our own culture and create our own identity. Whenever it has happened, it was either shut down. Remember Black Wall Street?
Yeah.
Coming up, and it was burnt to the ground because I guess it is threatening to, whatever system is out there. Hip hop started as a very positive outlet for people to express themselves, and in the late 80s, early 90s, record executives started to pump the poison in hip hop, the gangster rap, which I think is those early rappers in gangster rap. They had a lot of content they were speaking, a lot of skill they was sharing, but that was what was being put out there in the mainstream. That's what media was looking at. People were looking at. They weren't seeing those out there in the beginning of hip hop that was trying to create this identity for Black youth and Black people in general. And in fact, that what happened was it sort of tore it down to the point where young Black boys simply walking around in a hoodie is viewed as a threat.
Right.
You know, even wearing a hoodie is a bad thing, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It doesn't mean that they're walking around with a gun. So it seems like anything that we've tried to create to identify ourselves with as specifically in America, as American Blacks, have been torn down to make it seem like it's negative, it's violent, it's aggressive, and it's not. It's not. And we don't. And the thing is, we don't have a connection to. And that's one of the things that, for me personally, I would really love to find out. Not just through these Ancestry.com type things. I really would like to backtrack to see where my ancestry came from, to learn that particular culture and see if I can adapt that in me today. We don't have that connection. It was completely lost. So our identity and our culture is missing. And when we try to create our own, you know, it's deemed as a negative thing, and it's torn down.
Yeah.
I believe there's a fine line too, because if we're blunt, if we find out where we're from, it's going to give us a sense of identity and purpose. If we're not able to, then we have to recreate our basically like our new narrative. And I think that is where the middle ground is for a lot of Africans in the diaspora, enslaved, or basically those that are born there. It is the fact that we have to create our new narrative. And I was saying is like, it almost seems as if we're constantly begging to belong where we're not wanted. Even though we built this place, we're begging. We always ask for permission. Even when we march, no justice, no peace, no justice, no peace. It's like who are we crying out to? Because like they don't care.
You can't ask the oppressor to free the oppressed.
So it's like at the end of the day, no justice, no peace. Like we have to basically like turn inside like of ourselves and look as to where are our solutions. Like what can we bring to the table? Like what do you do? How can you help the cause? And so now it's like the interesting thing that I noticed is like this conversation, right? I think we're so oppressed and depressed that we don't even have time for love, whatever love is, because we started off with the gender divide, right? And she's like see where we are.
This is what's preventing us from
being like, and so then again, you have a third voice that comes in, and those aspects that we need to build and connect on, those are neglected upon. So like building a home, so the building the individual, the home and community, that is far gone because we are basically worrying about what we're facing. We're trying to just survive.
Great point.
Well, I think you start at the beginning, and I think The beginning is the journey that was where we were taken as slaves and taken to another country and given a new language and all the rest of it. And I think we can take that journey. There are people who have gone back to Ghana. My daughter was one of those people recently, and gone through the experience of seeing where we were taken and trying to reconnect. And I think we have the capacity to reconnect. We've got time to run all over social media and go connecting with people that have nothing to do with us and nothing to do with our heritage. We can take the time to, if we choose to try and relearn where we've come from and where we need to go. And I think when we start the journey, at least it will start to bring some purpose in our walk, purpose in terms of what we want to achieve and what we're doing things for. Like, I can build a great social network. I can make loads of money from the internet. What is it for? Is it for me, just for me, or is it for my future? Is it for the legacy that I want to build in my community? Is it for, what is it? And if we start joining up the dots, this is not just about an individual thing. This is why I don't like to hear divide, because if we keep bringing these conversations of divide, we will continue to divide and separate until there is nothing more that is regarded as Black and community. But, relationships have to start from somewhere. And the relationship starts with our community, with ourselves, with, the way that we interact, the way that we understand and we care about each other. And we've got to start at the beginning before we move forward. The steps have got to be from the beginning to the future. But someone's got to believe that is the right way to go. And we've got to buy into it first before it has a chance.
So I think that, go ahead, Ryan, go ahead.
Oh no, I had a thought, but Sandra had some really good points there. I was just going to say that and I think action is the most important thing, and I want to reiterate that we got to give ourselves time to heal, because we're 3 generations away from slavery. Okay, 3 generations, so we still have a long ways to go in trying to develop that identity. I belong to the hip hop culture. That was the only thing that my dad brought me up on hip hop culture. That's the only thing I know. And that's something that I'm sticking to because that it gives me familiarity. And it also, I feel like the hip hop are the people that were talking about gunslinging and drugs and stuff like that. They are grandpas now. Snoop Dogg is, a grandpa. And he's now preaching unity and collectiveness. And, he is in a successful relationship with his wife. And, as a youngster, I used to be scared of Snoop Dogg, but then to grow up to see that he is benefiting the community. He is pumping money back into his community. He's helping the kids with his football leagues and whatnot. So when it comes back to the gender divide, we are giving, I feel that women are putting too much pressure on me to be masculine. But when we're talking about masculine, where are we getting the idea of masculinity from? We're getting it from our European fellow.
Yes.
Because they're all masculinity is, let me build a hut and let me do this.
Build it.
But when it comes to, I was lucky. I was a young kid that went off in the wrong direction, and I had a mentor that taught me about Freemasons, and I was like, Freemasons, what are these guys? These guys are, running the, system and whatnot. But when I started learning, our people were the original Masons. We were building the pyramids.
Identity.
So when it came to being a man, it totally he taught, like, when you learn the principles of geometry and how you can use those principles to build your life, then the concept of a man made me think differently. Then I said, okay, well, then what does a man do? The man brings vision. And what's the role of a female? The female is to cultivate the vision. Is because she has the patience to see things through. Us men we are the risk takers So we are going to always do something to build. And we need to be in that environment again, because again, I mentioned earlier that we're not in our original environment. In our original environment, we're in the jungles building, taking fruits, and even healing ourselves with the earth. We are not by any of those elements. And when we start getting to the concept of building and then being on a consensus with our family of what we want to build, then we can understand what each other's roles are. Maybe man and women, maybe that role is not finite. Maybe it is what we make it, but it needs to be established in order for us to develop that teamwork and that consciousness to move our family forward.
Yeah. Division of labor is key.
No, definitely, I agree, and that's the fine line right there. That's the fine line where it's what I think we're stuck between what was and what is, and I explain myself in this way. So what is? So survival of the fittest. We were in a different environment, and now we are where we are right now. So now I think the questions that we have to ask ourselves is like, what does where we want to be look like? So the vision. So what does it look like to have a black peaceful community? What does it look like? What does black love look like? What does a man look like? What does a woman look like?
See what Dre wrote about roles?
There you go. And exactly, it's like, because roles, yes, like Dre said, roles have become a curse. A curse word. We don't know what our roles are. We can't see what we don't know. And so that's the thing. So we're in the darkness completely, and we're trying to say, wait, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do this. But says who? And why are we following?
Well, I think we can create our own roles.
Yes.
I think we have the ability to create what we want. I think we can sit down and we can design the role, the relationships that we want. And there's nothing, there is no big deal. People make it like there's some big deal. The role's going to come out the sky. No, it's not. You're going to sit down and you're going to decide, this is the kind of relationship I want. And this is how we want to be in this relationship. And then, using your integrity and whatever, you work with the person to slowly come into that being, because there's no big thing that anybody does out there in designing a relationship and deciding how they want to be. It's just two people having the will and having a vision of what they want to see for the future, together working on that vision and looking at how that they can build the bricks together to make that happen. And it may be, that you create something that's completely against normal traditional roles. You might do something, I'm sure Snoop Doggie's relationship is not traditional, right? Am I right? I don't know. It's not traditional.
And I don't think it's monogamous.
Okay, what do you mean?
Right? Okay, it may not be. I mean, and I'm saying I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to judge that aspect, because that's just one aspect. But if you want the monogamy and you want everything else, you decide, the two of you, and then you got to both act with integrity and stick to that vision and respect each other as you work through the process to get where you want to be. And then maybe you look back 20 years and you see something that you designed and that worked. It doesn't just happen. It takes work. It takes dedication. It takes commitment, which a lot of us lack, and discipline to see it through. Now, if we could get that, if we could just get the commitment and the discipline, that would be a massive start. Because things will go wrong, and it may change, because we're always evolving, right? So things may change as you go along, and we've got to be open to that. The world is constantly changing, and so are we. But it doesn't mean that our commitment changes.
What do you mean
our commitment doesn't have to change.
What do you mean by commitment?
Well, what I mean is, when I say commitment, this is what I mean. I mean that, there's something, I don't know if you've read the book, any of you have read the book, The Four Agreements. Yeah. Has anybody ever read the book, The Four Agreements?
Be impeccable with your word.
Right. So if you start off by being impeccable with your word, number one, and when I say on my word, that means if I say, this is how we're living, we're together. Together means, we are together, whatever, through thick, through thin, through whatever it might be. I will stick to this, and I live the commitment of that word. And I try and have integrity. So I'm not going to make assumptions and judgments about who you're going to be, but I'm going to live what I say I am going to live together. And whether you use God as your help or whatever you use as your foundation to support you in that commitment, you live the commitment, and it can only work with that level of commitment. You've got to be 100% in. If you're not 100% in, it does not have a chance. That's my experience.
Yeah.
So it's like in all of this, right? I think the biggest elephant in that, because everything you just said, I agree with 1,000%. Now, in the construct that basically we're in, and now most of our psyches are basically programmed to go along with the narrative of us as humans, we want to be. So we want to be. However, though, the narrative is in order to be in this world,
it has to look white.
It has to look white. I'm sorry to say. And that's the thing, like we've accepted that. And so now when it comes to basically
accepted that.
Yes. So when it comes to Black relationships, I think the reason why we often fail is because we're trying to be. However, though, society does have restrictions based on my experience. Those restrictions, they doesn't allow us to be, because we're trying to catch up. In a capitalistic environment, it's like I would like to basically really go out and camp with my family and just go and drive across North America, but I can't do that. Like I watched this documentary, the Pursuit of Happiness, and it was these two white people, and like they were able to drive all across basically from USA all the way down to South America. Now, me as a Black person, my experience has been, I don't know if this is going to be fact, but my experience has been there would have been a lot of questioning as to where we're going, and basically like just us trying to be in this world. So yes, it's like I think we all basically like we do have some kind of idea as to what we want to do and the individual aspects of like what we want. But what I'm noticing is that there are basically like restrictions that do keep us entrapped in this mindset, and so whenever basically like a person breaks out of that mindset, that your best option then becomes a white person who's basically like in a space of being already, so like they're able to assist you in just being. And I think that is further basically like causing the gap within like the gender divide, because like I'm sorry to say, but like for some brothers, like when they are with Becky, they're able to just basically speak and just be. And for some sisters, when they are with Todd like has that capital and basically like that speech to just let them be. So like that is basically like what I'm noticing is going on. We are being groomed to basically like that be to separate. And so this like when you talk about the James the Lynch
Willie Lynch.
The Willie Lynch. So it's still ongoing, like that separation, because like mind you though, if there's still separation between Black women and Black men, then how can Blackness be 400 years from now? And so
So here's my take. Some of this is education, right? Some of this is education and looking at relationships already in our community. I don't know where you're looking, okay? But I have an interesting thing on the point that you were talking about camping. I'm from the UK, and I have to say in the 60s, the UK was very, very, very white racist. Okay, it still is, but it was worse. And I remember as a child, my dad taken, and he's been married to my mom now for over 60 years, right? They're in their 80s now. And I can remember as a child, we were taken all around in the 70s and the 80s when people would not travel or camp anywhere. We camped all over the UK. We camped in places that maybe even white people would not camp, right? And and what that taught me coming into adulthood is that I can do anything and I can go anywhere because I am fearless about who owns what and who might do what and how they might do it. It's given me a confidence to show up anywhere fearlessly because my dad was fearless. And when I look back now at what he did and what he was prepared, where he was prepared to take us as Black children in a Black in a country where there was low tolerance for people, particularly from the Caribbean, showed me that I don't have to be afraid of what people might do, and I don't have to run to a Becky or anybody else to have a life.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I'm just saying that sometimes it's about exposure. Sometimes it's about understanding where your community's been. It's looking at those relationships that work in our community, and we have some good ones.
Yes.
We have some. I mean, I look across America, and there are some good Black relationships there that have stood the test of time. There are other ones that have been weakened and beaten down, and all the rest of it, and then people have separated. But we have some good role models in our community if we want to look for them. I don't think we have to always run outside to think it's better on the other side. Because even when you're with Becky, there are some places you ain't going to be able to go with Becky because your skin ain't right, okay? I don't care how good Becky is at opening certain doors, but there's some doors.
Well,
okay,
I'm with the Becky.
Hey, there you go.
I'm with the Becky.
Yes.
And I live in Calgary.
Okay, I'm not right. I don't know your Becky, but all I'm telling you, okay, there's gonna be some places that you and Becky may not be welcome. Okay, so I'm gonna look at it. We're talking here about Black and Black divide, and I'm saying let's embrace our love for each other.
Yes,
that's very much a part of the Black and Black divide. From at least can you just share with us, since you were thank you for letting us all know this. Yes. About your Becky.
And sorry, her name might not be Becky, but
let me tell you. Let me just put on my Becky voice, and
hi.
You know what? Let me just say, my child's mother. I have a child. His name is Malcolm, and my child's mother's from Ghana, and she was. We were supposed to get engaged, and it just didn't work out. But she is still my queen, and I say that in a sense that when we left it was very precious, and it was a really hard breakup for me to go through. But I said it, and I've been saying it consistently for 5 years. I love her enough for her to be happy in a new relationship, because my love for her will benefit my son. And because I kept that mindset, instead of looking at her as the enemy, because I grew up in a single parent home where we were always mad at our dad. So I took those experiences, and I still support and I still give her my all, because it translates in a really great co-parenting relationship with my son, and my Becky has to, she understands that, because I said that we're all family, and I've established that concept of vision for, overall, because you know what, at the end of the day, what I realize is that, when we're talking about roles, we're saying this is manhood. You got to beat your chest. You got to shave you have to have a beard, and you have to provide for your family. So if I can't provide for my family, then I'm no longer a man. I'm constantly getting people telling me what a man is. And I'm a man. I mean, I'm a man. I mean, I got man parts and everything, right? Like, I should be able to say that I'm a man. I don't need someone else to tell me who I should be. But
hey.
But that's the thing is, and then we're saying females should be cooking, but some females can't cook. Some females don't want to cook. Some
none here.
So.
Oh Lord, I can cook. I
don't want to.
Dying breed. Ain't none here at all.
How to be a man.
I just made some jerk chicken and rice and peas and like, you guys can come over for dinner. Like, you feel free.
Ryan, I want to talk to Ryan about how you said that the mother of your child is still your queen. That queen is now reigning by herself, and she may not feel like a queen because she's now, and I'm, I don't know anything about your life. I'm just saying, in the concept of what that looks like, the optics of that is that this woman is now, she could be by herself and looking for ways to validate herself, to not beat up on herself for the mistakes that she made in a relationship where somebody wasn't kind of willing to, and I'm not saying that this is you, but this situation in Black male-female relationships is that someone wasn't willing to step up and hold her in her pain and through to the point where they can be together and raise their children together. I think that's part of the elephants that I'm talking about. Like there's these like macro level understandings of what's happening to us. And then there's the micro, and you've just shared a micro experience that is even broken down even further to her single experience of that situation and your single experience of that situation. And when we don't look at those things really deeply and psychologically, that's where we continue to not learn how to imagine something different for ourselves. It's where the pain and shame is held so that we bring it into another relationship. Because at the end of the day, like you're the mother of your child, here I am by myself to try and raise a man, a Black male, and still have a way for him to respect and love his mother as a Black woman, not knowing what his father might be.
I want to clarify. She's not by herself.
No,
she's with her. She's with a Tom, and I mean she's happy, you know. And the thing is that I didn't leave her; she left me because I wanted to envision. I wanted to build something for our lives. I wanted us to eat healthy. I wanted to do that, and she didn't really subscribe to that because we're both Canadian. We're not, her parents are from Ghana. My parents are Trinidad, but we're Canadian. We grew up in Calgary, the whitest city in Canada. So we are even confined by what is around us and what we have access to. Right. So I reach out to you guys because that's my extension to the culture, because there's not really much culture where I live. So when I was talking, and I was very militant back in the days about Black love, and a lot of people would see us in the street to be like, you better stay with that woman. Yeah. You better stay with her. You better hold her up. Yeah. And you guys have to understand how much depression I went through when she left, because we were the only couple that were together that were Black. And the fact that I could not hold it together and that I was disappointing my community as I felt, that was debilitating to me. And it took me 5 years to move on because of that.
See, and you need to be held in a space for that. That needs to be spoken about. It can't just be, put inside of you and then just continue moving on like nothing's going on. And we put a tremendous amount of burden on ourselves to carry the community on our individual backs. Jesus. And I
took from Ryan. I just wanted to say what I took from Ryan is that it takes two. It actually takes two, right? I think we could have made the assumption that Ryan's with Becky and he decided to leave his queen behind. And I think clearly that's not the case. And I think it's very easy to make assumptions about what you think is going on because someone's on their own. Wait. I just want to say, because somebody's
said that not his personal situation, but that idea. So I said it wasn't right.
No, I'm not speaking to you. I'm saying generally that someone could assume that because Ryan says I'm with the Becky, that he left his queen behind and that she wasn't the one who left. And what I'm saying is that it takes two in that we all have a responsibility to, when we're talking about understanding ourselves and embracing what is, Black love, if we want to call it Black love, and we want to try and maintain relationships, it takes two. And it actually means that both of us need to be conscious. Both of us really need to buy into that belief that this is a good thing and we're doing it, we're in a purposeful, intentional way because we want it to work. Right. And I think if you don't have that commitment, which is what I was talking about before, then you'll have two great people who are with two people who don't necessarily have to be with two people, could be together if they could have got it together.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? And that's what I can see here.
And I think clearly, I'm sorry. It's like I think a question that's coming up for me then So for black love, commitment and everything, does it then always create a situation of codependency? Because I think we've been so traumatized and so like we come from a narrative of trauma that in order to basically to maintain it seems like there has to be this codependency aspect to it, because you got to understand the traumas that and that the other person faces on their daily lives. So you can't just judge the other person and say, hey, they did this. So like it's like that's the question that's coming up. Does it create a sense, like does it create room for codependency in like black relationships?
Well, I think codependency sounds like almost a negative thing, that we're together, but there's no real heart to it. What I'm saying is, if you're gonna embrace black love, I mean, you know, it's got to be a heart thing, and it's got to be, you know, holistic in that it's mind, body, and soul. But I don't need to be dependent on that person. I don't have to be with you just because you're a black person and I want to keep the black love. Things have to be holistic, meaning you have to be working with me. We have to be in this connection that works on lots of different levels, because other than that, it will break down. And it's when we're just operating from one level that it doesn't work. You have to think about the other things. Spiritually, are we connected? Are we in alignment? Physically, we can be in alignment, but not spiritually in alignment. You know, there's so many ways that we need to make this work. And so it's not about codependency. It's about understanding how we align ourselves in so many different ways so that the connection is wholesome. It grows, we evolve, we are allowed to grow within that relationship. We're allowed to be ourselves, most importantly. So this whole thing about strong woman, weak man, all this bullshit is out the window, because I can be a strong woman and be with someone and it not detract from what our connection is all about. And it all still works in harmony, because I understand when to be strong and not to be strong. I understand when to be the person that stands up my kid in the playground and when to respect my husband and be on that level where we're both working together as a team. Do you get what I'm saying? Because strength, we don't need anybody to be weak or strong. We need people to work right in the situation for what it is. Because there's going to be times when we need to fight, and I need to come out fighting. If I'm always playing this game of like, no, it's serious. When if I'm playing this game, I remember my eldest daughter now, I remember when she was young and she was in the playground, and at the time me and her dad were in a very strong relationship, and I dropped her off at school and I looked around and I saw this guy. It was a young black guy, they're both the same age, and he was bullying her, and clearly he didn't see that I had turned and seen him, like, you know, trying to get money from her. And I sprinted across that playground and I just took him, I lifted him off the ground, right? And I wasn't joking. And he knew from that day not to play with my daughter. But that's a strong black woman being a strong black woman when she needs to be. Do you get what I'm saying? But in the home, I need to know when to step back a little and allow the person to be, you know, who I'm with, to be the man for that situation. And there's times when he may not be as strong in some situations, but I will be stronger, but we will work in harmony. Because that's what a relationship is about.
I think
that yin and yang, that understanding, soft and hard.
Yeah. I think it's obvious that you've had time to develop that imagination of how you want to formulate your relationships. And I think it's an important one. And I agree with lots of things that you're saying. But when someone like Rayanne, one of our viewers right now, who keeps talking about our elders not showing them how, you know, you've come to this realization because you've experienced things, and it's all of your trials and errors have brought you to this understanding. We're of a certain age so that we understand things differently than the younger people. So what these ideals that we are presenting here, we're kind of singing to the choir, because I think we're all in agreement. But what we want to start to create is a narrative, practical way of addressing people who do not have this knowledge. How do we reach them?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I want to ask the ladies this. In your estimation, what is it that is the turnoff for some men of a quote unquote strong woman?
What is the turnoff?
Of a strong woman?
For some men who are not who who don't like quote unquote strong women?
You're asking us to speak for the men?
No,
I mean, in your estimation, what do you think?
My estimation of why a man wouldn't like a strong woman?
A quote unquote strong woman, yeah.
I guess because of those ideals that doesn't allow them to be the strong one. And if he can't show up in the way that I can show up for myself, then he might not feel like a man in that situation. And then that hurts the way that they communicate and interact with one another in terms of respect. There's a lack of respect there that may flow consciously or unconsciously. That's for me.
I think as a woman,
we got trapped.
I just want to say, I think as a woman, for me, the experience I've had is I see myself as a strong Black woman, but I don't see it as a negative thing, and it's never been a negative thing for me in my whole life. I've never met anybody who's ever been offended by my strength or has wanted to run away because I'm a strong woman. I think a strong woman knows a strong woman that is conscious of who she is knows how to manage her strength.
That's right.
And I think the problem is for a lot of women who call themselves strong women is they don't know how to manage their strength. You can be strong, but you have to know how to consciously manage, like if you're in the workplace, think about yourself in the workplace. When you're in the workplace, you put on a lot of hats and you play a lot of games to fit in, to not alienate people, to make friends, even with the people that you hate, okay, in the workplace. And if you sometimes look at the workplace and you think about yourself, if you make all those adjustments, okay, it's a bit like when you're talking about disabilities. Someone comes in, they tell you they're dyslexic or whatever. You can always work with that person, but you have to make some adjustments, right? And that's the same thing with a relationship with a partner. You can be the strongest and the most wonderful and beautiful person with everything that a man wants, but you need to know how to make adjustments, okay? Reasonable adjustments so that you can have peace in your home and you can maintain respect between the two of you, and that person ultimately keep loving you because you understand how to play that game, and it just is life. That's how it is. We all make reasonable adjustments for people. We're doing it all the time. Why can't we do it for a partner? Why do we have to be limited? I can only be one thing. Why do you have to be one thing? We are so many things to so many people anyway, and I'm not saying you got to stop being who you are. You just make reasonable adjustments so that you take into consideration someone else's feelings.
And it has to be two ways. Like, I can't make an accommodation for something that I don't understand or know. So you have to be able to communicate your needs and wants in spite of the fact that I may be strong.
I think it's a space. Go ahead, Ryan.
I was good. I'm sorry, brother. Didn't mean to cut you off there. I was going to say that my sister, my older sister, she's like my best friend. She's a definition of a strong woman. However, my sister brings what she learned in corporate world and she brings it home. And I think corporate strength is a sign. It's like European, I would say European masculinity, because it's like, if you don't show up on time, you're cut. My sister is like, I'm outside. It's 10 o'clock. Come outside.
But
right? When my parents are from the Caribbean, and when you go to the Caribbean or I went to Guyana to visit my dad.
Late.
So you go in the street, people are late, but it's because they are they're living their life. They're not on everyone else's time, and I understand there's certain cultural differences, but a strong woman is not a corporate woman. It's not, coming home like, okay, your FICO score is 350, so we got you. Right? So I think that.
But what I'm saying is, okay, it depends on how you define a strong woman, right? There's women who believe they're a strong woman, but their idea of a strong woman may be an asshole. And so, it's like if you ever hear about the guy who, he keeps it real. So keep it real means he insults people. That means he keeps it real,
I'm honest.
Like that's something to be, proud of, is because you talk shit. So, he keeps it real, like that. So I think we have to really define what is strength. And then also we have to look at, there's things that I believe are strong attributes that we don't always apply to them. You know, nurturing is strong in strength as well. You know, strong doesn't mean that you can bench 300 and you can, you know, and all of that kind of stuff. Strength isn't, you know, strength isn't, you know, some people think that strength is, oh, because I wag my head and I talk a lot of junk, that means I'm strong. Yes. That's annoying as hell. And so there's a lot of women that go around saying, I'm strong, I'm strong, I'm strong. And these guys can't deal with me because I'm strong. No, a lot of times it's because you're an asshole. That's
because you don't listen.
And the thing about that, you're right. I just want to add this piece. It's all about allowing space. See, like I think that like strength is about allowing space. To kind of go off with what Sandra was saying, being able to recognize when to allow the space for the other individual. Because as a black man, what I experience is like the reason why I often silence myself as much as let's say I want to communicate, is because I don't see the space for me to basically like express what I want to express, how I want to express. Because if I do it, it's it could be war. And so for me, a strong partner would be even now I'm choking, like spiritually my spirit is choking. But for me, it's about being granted the space to be. And so for me, a woman who's able to do that, that is a strong woman, because she knows that, this needs to happen, and she still accepts me, and vice versa as well. It's not just on her. Like if I see it, I have to allow space. So it's about allowing space, like that's what strength is.
So how do we allow space when we are living in shame? Does anyone have any?
When you're living in, sorry, I didn't get that.
So a lot of us have a lot of shame that come with.
Oh, right.
So how do we allow space when we're so emotionally triggered in every conversation that we have, that we're being told that we're assuming things, or like Black people can be very prideful people. And so when we speak to one another, we're emotionally triggered right away to respond in particular ways, and we can't get to the place of space. So what strategies can we employ to start to deconstruct the shame that we're feeling as a community, but individually first? Like I have to be able to say to myself, okay, I know I'm triggered. I know that I did that. Where do I reach inside of myself? If I don't have a connection to God, I do, but other people, how are they going to learn how to clear that out so that they can make that space for other people?
And I think Shannon.
So something. Go on. No, you go.
They're creating space.
Yeah, right. Space.
You go, baby. You take the floor.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
No, I love you more.
No, I love you. I think that Shannon has it's a very good point in the messages. Like she says, clear that shame first. Heal yourself whole. Therapy is beneficial. Self-care. So that is that's a great point. So now it comes a sense of accountability within our parts, because we have to be accountable for ourselves and also accountable for each other. So the self-accountability, really understanding the situation, understanding ourselves. Why am I feeling what I'm feeling? What is causing this? Really having a thorough introspection, that it can basically help you affirm who you are as an individual. And first of all, I think that it creates your boundaries for you. So whoever you allow within your circle, you would have somewhat kind of filtered that out already. So I agree with what Shannon is saying. Self-care and accountability, self-accountability.
And as well, separation. I think some of us we so want to get in.
I think it's also good to have someone in your life that can.
Why do you want to get into a relationship when you really have not? Yeah, you want to do that, but hold on. Sometimes you are so damaged and so hurt from things that you need a little time out. Just like when you're on the field and you're playing a game, sometimes you need a break when you think you're doing well, but your coach can see that actually you need time out. And sometimes you need to give yourself time out. Stop thinking about, relationship, and spend some time on yourself, working with who you are, trying to understand some of your issues, and then working before you come out to say, well, I want to go out and play now. At least when you go out and play, you know, look, I have a real idea of who I am and what I'm about. And now I can start to think about how I can couple with someone else, because I'm clear about where I'm going and what's going on for me. And I think sometimes we're walking around with a graveyard of past experiences on our back. And it's the truth. You know, that graveyard is not shifting. And so our paradigm will never shift. And our attitude will always be the same, because if you dig deep enough and you scratch, everything, the triggers will come and everything will come flying up, and you're reliving and reliving and reliving. And sometimes you need to stop and go, right, that's it. I need to kind of bring this to a halt, and I need to heal a little, and then I can move forward. And it's no hard work to actually spend the time. It's worse when you keep bumping into new people and just repeating the same things from the past. I think it's really important to have people in your life
that really will tell you like it is. Because to be honest with you, a lot of people that are close to you, like whether it be your friends or your family, they co-sign your fuckery. So just because you are their cousin, you are their whatever, they don't really tell you what you really need to hear. So you're always, it's like this. Anyone who disagrees with you is a hater. So don't listen to your haters. Sometimes they're telling you some good shit you need to hear. They're, you know, sometimes they're actually telling you about yourself and you need to hear it. So, and I hate this whole idea of if someone don't agree with your BS, negative energy. No, sometimes they're telling you because you suck. Yeah, and you need to come correct. So I think that's very important as well. You know, so because that goes on so much. People, well, that's my cousin, so I'm gonna support whatever they do. Like you always hear that is, oh, well, my cousin is this. It's like, well, so what? If your cousin's wrong, they wrong. You know, I think we need to stop co-signing fuckery. To be honest with you.
But that also goes with the fact that we put so much emphasis on someone's occupation and how much money they bring, because I think that money also dictates whether someone is co-signed or not. Because you wanted a man, you wanted a man with all this money with a good FICO score, but now he's saying, yo, baby, I want to have two girlfriends, and you can't say nothing about it. When you look at R. Kelly, this is a guy that has been supported for 20 years,
30
and 30 years and people are allowing him to have that because he's taking care of the family. And I've even seen it even with my personal family, how money shifts the responsibility to people that haven't even earned the place to be in leadership, but because they have the money, they're dictating the culture of the family unit.
Man, he just did. I don't want to talk too much about him, but he just did a concert filled with women, and some of them were screaming, "Put me in your harem, make me part of your thing." So, but they're victims, though.
Okay.
I mean, but that goes deeper, and you said you didn't want to talk about this, but that goes deeper to the context of our community. The conversation.
What's that got to do with our community? Those are them. They're messed up.
Okay, hold on.
We're talking about broken people, and we're not having those conversations about broken people. And I just posted about Maya has said healing is hard. And I said, well, what's harder is staying broken, because you don't realize how many good people you tear up, you destroy, or you ruin. Think of yourself as shattered, sharded glass. If you continue to be broken and you don't deal with your healing, abused before he abused. And so he was broken. Yes. And I'm not excusing his behavior. I'm just saying we as a community have to rally around each other and have conversations. Yes. I'm glad that they're talking about R. Kelly, but what about your uncle? What about your grandpa? What about your auntie? What about your sister? What about your cousin? Because there are bigger issues within our community. I'm not just here for Kente or LA or Ryan. I'm here for the Nicole down the street that I don't know, who's afraid to say my uncle's been harassing me and sexually assaulting me since I was 2. But I didn't know how to put words to that because he said he would kill my mama if I told her. So those are the conversations that we are just not having. And because he was in the limelight, it became an issue. A zillion Robert Kellys and Roberta Kellys, just like him, that we are not talking about.
And that right there goes along with what I was talking about, sequence and patterns. So a whole bunch of sequence of events that occur to us early on in our lives create these patterns that we allow to basically to happen. So there's a lot of us, to your point, Shannon, that have basically suffered a lot of abuse. A lot of us. So this is beyond R. Kelly. And this basically, it plays into how we interact with ourselves. And it is part of one of the blocks that doesn't allow for basically like black relationships, or black relationships become abusive because of the sequence of things that occurred earlier on in our lives that we have not dealt with. Like we haven't taken like the, and even that sometimes like we are not in awareness as to basically like how we are manifesting these patterns. And so like it's so intersected that it's I don't know where to start.
Well, R. Kelly was able to carry on for so long, I believe, and what I said on a different podcast is that R. Kelly could go along because it's happening in our homes. Like you're saying, Shannon, if Uncle Jojo could come to Thanksgiving dinner, even though he touched little Susie, and needs to go hand him a plate of food, even though he's messing with her, then why would we think that R. Kelly is any different? His family is the entertainment business, and all of those people were aware of what he was doing, but they still allowed it to happen.
Capitalism, money.
And what about the parents? What about some of the parents that said it was okay? And I'm not excusing it, because don't get me wrong, I work with victims every single day, and a victim is a victim is a victim. But it all starts with the conversations that we just aren't having. We're afraid to have. It's like, if you aren't a part of the solution, you are a part of the problem. And that includes even if you are the victim's parents. If you are not actively a part of the solution to your child that is being harassed and assaulted and raped and mistreated, you are part of the problem. And that is a hard thing to own up to, because you don't see yourself as such.
That's a shame.
Because we don't. Hello, can we take a moment to recognize all these wonderful people that came to check us out? I think we should one by one give everybody a shout out. You want to do that, LA Wade?
I can't see everybody, so you do it for me.
Oh, you can't see it?
Okay, so let's see. We have Dr. Vibe, Jay Karina, Moki Awa, Camille, Patricia A, WD, Keisha B,
hey, Keisha.
Maya, Galen, is it Jalen Bingham, Eva Laura, Dre, Ikani.
Oh.
And Sonia.
You guys speak French to each other.
Bonjour, Ikani. Vous parlez français?
Oui. I want to give a big shout out to Ava Laura, who's a wonderful podcaster as well. Thanks for hopping in. And Pat Murray is going to do a show a little bit later as well. And of course, Dr. Vibe and my wonderful co-host Jen as well.
Nice. Look, someone said, "Hey, Boogie."
But yes, no, like these are, and you're right. So like that's why we actually created this forum, the Elephant Room, because these issues, they do need to be addressed, because they are killing us. They are furthering the gap between Black love, and we are basically like either like to Kent's point, we get to a point where now it's like everything's all positive, and if you try to basically like call people on their bullshit, it becomes you are a hater or you are bringing negativity. But sometimes those things, they need to be addressed, and we have to basically then self-analyze. You have to feel, it's true. You have to filter out like what is meant to bring you down, and also what might be real. And so there's a fine line in between, I think.
And talk about how to support the victims while we're also supporting the perpetrator, because that in and of itself is taboo, which is why we need to talk about it in the Elephant Room. But it's something that needs to be looked at. How do we do that? How do we support R. Kelly and get him the help he needs, while at the same time not diminishing what those women experience?
Absolutely.
Those are the questions that I was hoping we would be able to come up with. Not for R. Kelly specifically, because we're not in his circle, but for like JoJo, how do we approach him and say, "Yo, bro, you need some help"? And this is you can't. It's not okay that you touch Susie.
And it's I think it's about understanding what the causes of this. And like earlier on, I was mentioning it's a power dynamic because power has been stripped from us as individuals, and it doesn't justify nothing. But most of the time, this becomes about power, and people want to basically manifest like power in a certain way. So that is I think one of the main issues. This yearning for power and like this wanting to be and innocence being stripped away from us. I think that's like the main some of the main things that are causing this. You know. Like,
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And communication is an issue, and being able to acknowledge mental health.
Yes,
because you know communication goes both ways, right? You should be able to look at my signals and know when I come home, because I used to come home and blah, 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 blah. You're like, okay, hold up, I just got home. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, I know I got a powerful mic over here, so I apologize. You're good. I'm very animated, but the reality is that we're not looking at our social cues and what our needs are, and we're not fulfilling those needs, because that's by fulfilling people's needs, then we can move things forward. But if we're not acknowledging what each other needs, and the one issue that it constantly gets brought up in these forums is mental health.
Yes.
We are not talking about our previous, because I was abused as a kid. I was physically abused by my mother. And that had a strain on me in terms of my relationship with females, because I was in relationships where I wanted to be dominant. I wanted to be in control because I didn't want the women to take the control the way that I felt my mom and my grandma and my sisters took control away from me. And I had to realize through that, like I had a really good relationship, and because I was too controlling, I lost that relationship because I didn't understand what it was to be a real, like in my understanding of being a man. So I had a lot of trauma dealing with my mother, and I brought that into my relationship. And we got 70 years to our lives, 75, 80 years to our life. We don't got time to deal with our mental health. We don't even want to see a therapist. We drink. A part of our culture is, especially in Trinidadian culture, we love to drink our rum, and that's all we're doing when we're meeting, and we forget about the pain that we had. And I had to have a serious conversation with my mom because it was bugging me so much inside. And I said to my mom, we had to talk on the phone for 2 hours, and I said, I forgive you.
Oh, that's big.
I forgive you.
That is good.
I forgive you.
Right.
And when my baby mamas left, I said, I love you. I love you so much that I want you to be happy in your new relationship. Do you know how much weight how it paved the way for all the other women in my life?
Ryan, like I gotta say, I appreciate your transparency, my brother, because that is part of the solution, and I appreciate that. And I want to highlight that. That was very appreciated because yes, and yes, we a lot of us suffer from like these issues, like that blocks us. My God, I appreciate that, brother.
But it really paved the way to a lot of future relationships that I had, where women got the best of me because I wasn't thinking that they're going to take over. Because it's funny. Why is it brothers, especially when brothers are broke, we always talking about prenups? We're like, I want a prenup. I don't want to have a child. Did you get, your check-in, like, did you get pregnant after sex? You're like, did you get pregnant? You know what I mean? Like, and it's like all of this hypersensitive anxiety that we're carrying from relationship to relationship. And that trust barrier is causing us not to come together, because what's the opposite of love? Isn't it fear?
Well, that's what we're operating in, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what we're operating.
Sorry.
I love your story, Ryan. I love your story because I think it's an example of healing, that you actually did your work to get your healing so that you could move on.
Cool. But the interesting thing about that too, if I could just add this, and this is like the elephant in the room, is the fact that, see, the solution, like I'm saying, is like it really turns out sometimes to be people outside of like the community that can offer us that space, because we need that space. And I think us as humans, our innate wantonness. Is like to have that space. So whatever is going to, whoever is going to give it to us, we are going to take it because it's a survival thing.
Space is not to be asked for, though. You need to just like
you need to be.
Like Shannon said before, you need to just take the space. It's not about asking for permission for the space.
Yes.
You need to just take that space so that we can do what we need to do to heal. Because Ryan, you got to a place where you were able to acknowledge what was going on for you and then be able to then extend that to the mother of your child.
Yes.
And that's what allowed that beautiful story to happen. I don't know how she is, but you allowed something there to happen that is quite, like Shannon said, quite beautiful. And I think that's a practical way of seeing what Shannon was expressing as advice, to say, work on yourself so that you can provide space for more stories like that to take place. Yeah. Shannon, you look very happy.
And you know what?
I'm sorry. What you say?
Oh, no, it's okay. Go ahead.
Hi, Shannon.
Hi, Sandra. Well, I just want to piggyback real quick.
Hey.
Close my mouth. We had said earlier within the casting is that you cannot pour from an empty vessel. So you have to start with yourself when it comes to healing. And self-care, which is why it's called self-care. You can't care for someone else at a capacity in which they need it if you are depleted, if you are empty. And that's something my mom has always instilled upon me. She was like, if you don't have your health, and that's all health, spiritual health, mental health, physical health, emotional health, what good are you to someone else?
No.
So it's so important. It's essential. And Dre said it, mental health is important. We need to do our check. You take your car in to get it fixed. You need to take yourself in and work on the things you have that need.
Get that MOT. Get that MOT.
Exactly.
Yeah, listen.
We have about just under 50.
And you know what I like? I like that people stop looking outward and look inward. Yes. I think it's so, we have this thing of we're always looking outward. It's what someone did. It's what people do to me. It's not what I do. What about your personal responsibility for the stuff that you bring? Look inward. Look inward. Fix you first, then you can, you're on a plane, that thing that they say when you're in a plane, put the mask on yourself first. If the plane's going down, put it on yourself first, and then you can put it on somebody else. Doesn't matter, even if it's a child. I always think they say, even if it's a child, you put it on yourself first. Well, that means that you got to sort yourself first, and then you can sort the world out.
Yeah.
And I think then you attract good things. I think this is what I find. When I did the work for me, I started to attract the right people to me. I didn't have to go searching high and low for Mr. Right. I just started to naturally attract good people to me. And I think that's what happens. The energy comes from you. And when the energy is good, people come. The right people come.
You better.
I agree. And the big thing that's going on is that I think a lot of like what we're seeing right now is a sense of community. How like us coming together just in dialogue, we're able to basically get a lot of good tools and heal from that. And I think so. Even in terms of like the gender divide, like whether it be love or whatever it is, relationship or just being cordial with each other, dialogue is very important, and like community is very, very important.
Yeah, the dialogue and support, the support of one another. Instead of tearing each other down, building each other up, in spite of the pain that we're feeling. And what someone saying?
Are we attracting people or repelling people, as for Dr. Vibe? But before we get to that, I just want to acknowledge Kimberly. Welcome to the room. And Maya, we see you. And thank you very much, everybody, for joining. But yes, to Dr. Vibe's point, are we attracting people or repelling people?
I also wanted to link that to, we have just probably under 15 minutes to go. And I wanted to bring up this last idea regarding the gender divide, and that is how our religious beliefs and our spirituality influence. Are we walking in the fruits of the spirit, or are we, are we those people that if we are Christian, are we like girl, did you see so and so in the church? And are we causing more of that divide?
What's that thing that you say, the fruit flies of the soul?
Oh yeah, I call that fruit flies of the soul.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Fruit flies for the soul, because when there's flies going around your fruit, it's important for you to recognize that something is bad, something is rotting. Yeah, there is something wrong in your patience. There's something wrong in your forbearance. There's something wrong, and we need to look at that. But more importantly, in terms of the gender divide, I think it was Miles Monroe that gave these wonderful sermons around the purpose and vision of man and the purpose and vision of woman. And right there, you know, we could, in this independent white feminist world that these Black women are trying to live in, it becomes problematic to try to step up and quote unquote support a man, because that's not deemed as having value as a woman in this day and age. So we feel like we are belittling ourselves in order to be there for the man. And the man is frustrated, especially the Black man, because he's in constant threat for his life. He's either going to jail, going to get killed, or he's being portrayed as effeminate. And it's hard for him to stand in who he is, and especially from the lens of the church, when this is the ideas that are being presented to us as options. And that, I believe, is also contributing to the divide between us as Black men and Black women. And also,
I mean, from a male to female perspective, it's just us being aware as to the feelings of not being protected as well. Like, that is very, very basically like important. We have to basically like allow space for our ladies to be, and also give a sense of community and protection towards them. And you don't have to be in a relationship with somebody to even be a mentor, jump in a mentorship position, assisting and helping, whether it be with the children, whether it be with just how can I be of assistance to you? And I mean, I understand. So like, I'm in a good place. How can I share this space that I'm in with somebody? How can I help? I think these are things that will bring us together.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Can I say something?
Yeah.
Is it okay? I just wanted to say that it's good to have some good principles for your relationship. So it doesn't matter whether you just met someone or whatever. I have a thing of, you know, we have some agreements about how we will speak to each other, the language we will use. You know, the thing of like, I will say something good or I will say nothing at all sometimes. You know, this thing, you know, even in jest, not to put each other down. You know, those are some of the things that will keep your relationship strong, and that respect and love going. Because if you agree, it's something I recently with a friend of mine, even though we're close, and I always say, I don't care how close we are, whether we're playing or not, we don't say certain things. We just don't bring that energy. We don't bring that energy, because even in play, it sticks somewhere, it sticks there, and you start to feed on it and it gets worse. You keep it positive and you keep the negatives out. And I think then that leaves, only space it leaves is for love to grow. And if something happens or I hurt you, you tell me, and we try and work it out. And, you know, without, you know, getting into this thing of I'm right, you're wrong, I'm right, you're wrong. You never win. You never win. Sometimes we both say we're wrong, and okay, what happened here, and work it out. Do you know what I mean? But it's that adult thing of agreeing to be adults almost. I hate the word adult, because, you know, what is adult? But just agreeing that we will just be human to each other always, and put each other first. And I used to have a thing with my ex-husband of never in public. We never disagree in public. And I like that. We never put each other down or rubbish each other. If we think anything's wrong, we wait until we get out that place to have that conversation, right? But in front of anybody else, we're not putting each other, we're not dogging each other out. It doesn't happen. And it's a good way sometimes.
I agree with that. And I'm sorry, Ryan, like the very good, but there's good points that are being made in the comments. I think the first one was by Ambrosia. Welcome to the conversation, by the way. So we speak more outrageously to those we so-called love than strangers. And I mean, to that point, like, I think it's because once people are close to us, they're very much aware of our shame. It's a shame issue where they're aware of like our deepest secrets. So I think we tend to repel to Dr. Point's point, to Dr. Vibe's point. We repel, and then we attract. If we're not careful, we could attract a bunch of yes people into our lives because that's what we want to hear. We're not comfortable sometimes with basically like having somebody like, you know, really tell us what it is. And there's another good point by Galen or Jalen. I'm sorry if I'm. So it said that he said. I'm sorry. Jalen said something about we seem to be living on fast food definition relationship. Rather than fixing the real food.
We want soul food.
It takes a lot of work, and that is the truth. It takes a lot of work because, like, I think.
And it's not what you say; it's how you say it. You can say stuff, and you can tell me about myself. You can tell me straight. You can do it as you, but it's how you say it. It's how you say it in love to somebody when you want to make them wrong or you want to just correct them. So, you know, it's understanding that. And you always know the difference. You'll know because when you hurt people, people know they're hurt. And also, we can be emotional. We can be in that I don't want to hear anything that anybody says that makes me wrong. But I think if you're giving it in love, there's a chance the person will receive it in love as well. But you've got to think about the way you are expressing.
And we have to stop in our relationships. We have to stop weaponizing sexuality. We have to stop weaponizing financial issues because we often use them as our crutch, that when someone hurts us, that we go out of our way to be like, well, he's this. Or she did that. And she doesn't handle herself like this. If he was a broke MF and this is a broke, you know, and it's like, these are not traits. These are not things that, these are not describers that describe who we are as people. And one thing that Sandra said about not arguing in public, you know, even it extends to baby mama relationships like I have. You know, we went to mediation and we just decided that we're going to be one before if the message gets to Malcolm. And if I say something, he's grounded for 2 weeks, it happens over there. And we're like this in the car with Malcolm. We're like, Malcolm, we're like this.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Can't break this bond. I know we're not together, but we're like this. And he's like, so he knows he can't play us. But the whole idea is the common respect for each other at all times. You know, because then it's not only because when the enemy will always infiltrate our system when he sees division with ourselves, with our family, whatnot, right? We don't really think about that, but they're infiltrating it. They're all up in our business. And then next minute, you know, we're all broken up. We're on welfare, trying to wait for the man to give us money. When we could have just found different ways of bettering our relationships. Because sometimes I told this to my girlfriend. I said, and I'm almost on the point, but you know, I told this to my girlfriend. I'm like, you know what? This argument is very expensive because what's going to happen is like
that part.
Word.
You got to move out because I own. You know, I rent this place. My name's on the lease. You're gonna have to move out, and you're gonna have to all these little things. This is expensive, so maybe we could just work it out. You know what I mean? Maybe we could just have a common ground. Common ground is cheap.
You need to say that right there.
So, anyway, like as Elaine and I are saying that it speaks to a point that Dr. Vibe made in the comments. Is your relationship an investment or an expense? So that speaks to it right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, but that's self-inventory. You have to ask yourself if you're a liability or an asset.
Right.
And I pride myself in telling people all the time, you can say many things about Shannon Ford Jefferson, but you're not going to say she was a liability. I wasn't a liability. I wasn't a liability.
Oh, I like that, Shannon. I like that.
I always kept you safe in my conversation.
I
and
brought them to the table.
So I brought a lot of investment and return on investment to the conversation and the action. So yeah, we got to be about it. We can't just say, "Oh, I'm this, I'm that." Where the proof?
I
guess to kind of basically like
Word.
To kind of sum it up, because I think we're about to like summarize and wrap it up soon. I think that this is like a great forum. So myself and LA, you guys could always find us on the following platforms, Instagram and Twitter, and on Facebook as well. So on IG on IG.
IG is at the Elephant Room TV.
Mm-hmm.
We hope to be doing much more conversations. We have a whole year full of conversations that we want to have that people don't want to have. The Elephant Room is about taboo and unspoken things that need to be brought to the forefront of our community.
Yes.
We want to understand what's impacting us from the inside out. And so please join us as we come along.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I'm at This Is LA Wade on Instagram. I am at LA Wade 6 on Twitter. And we do have a Facebook page for the Elephant Room. We'd love to see you all come in there and join. I guess Boogie's going to put it in the comments. Boogie, you want to say where to reach you?
Yes. So on Instagram, my handle is at Mike_Truth. So I'm going to spell that for you. So I'm going to put it in the comments anyways, but it's at Mike_Truth. And I'll put all of our handles in the comment section.
It's
so you guys
Mike MIC.
Yes, exactly, because I'm an MC as well. But yes.
No, this was really great. It means so much to me that I had this idea from a long time ago at the end of 2016 to bring forth these types of conversations. I've tried multiple ways to try and start this conversation. And so Kinte, thank you to you and to Indie Radio for providing a platform for the Elephant Room to finally jump off. I can't wait to see all of you back in the ER, helping everybody rehabilitate. We got some surgical procedures to do on our community.
Yep.
So the ER is here to serve. And hopefully we are going to provide more solutions than articulating our problems.
Yes, exactly.
I think Galen was just saying something at the end there. What did he say, Kinte?
No, I just wanted to say thank you guys so much. This was a wonderful discussion. And Boogie, I feel like I've known you for 30 years after listening to you talk.
Same here,
man. And I gotta hear you. I gotta hear some of your flows.
Definitely, of course.
Definitely. In LA, we met on Dr. Vibe show, and you were amazing on that show, and you were amazing today. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you to the wonderful ladies and Ryan who stepped in, but Sandra and Shannon, thank you for stepping in and helping.
And Sandra's doing a show later today as well. So and she's a top-notch podcaster, going back. So she came out of retirement to do that. We had to kick her jersey from the rafters down so she can come back. So and also Ambrosia has a show, not the next show. We're going to be talking to life coach Leah in another room. Me, Shannon, and Jen will be talking to her about what she's working on. So just want people to know. Sorry about that.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
I love Galen's point as a way of closing. But if Shannon and Sandra wanted to end with anything that they want to say or share. Yeah.
I'm just glad that I got to the end of this because I was at church and I was like, I got to hurry up and get home and catch the I was looking forward to y'all energy. So I'm grateful just to be here. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. LA Wade. So
Sandra? So I just wanted to say I've got a show later which is about over 40s finding relationships. I hope people hang out with me. I just want to talk about the fact that sometimes when you get to 40 now, it seems like you will never ever find a partner.
You're black don't crack, so you can.
I hear the black don't crack, but there's a lot of 40-year-olds that have been single for a long time, and it doesn't seem to be ending. So maybe we're gonna have that conversation as to why that is and what people can do to get off the single trail if that's what they want.
All right.
First of all, we got to make clearing, I guess. Do you want to read Galen's point? I think it's a great way to end.
So yes, actually, to sum it up, I like Galen or Jalen. I'm sorry, my brother. He says all of life is lived in our own heads, and I'm going to scroll back up. And if life is not how you expect, check how you're thinking about the world.
I think that's the perfect way to end.
So yes, it is a perfect way to end.
Thank you
so much.
Come on over to the next room.
Every single person that took part, like, let's go on to the next conversation and
let's keep it going.
Have an awesome day, guys. Peace.
Great show, guys. Great show.